welcome to this video from the Department of Geography at King's College. My name is David Green. I'm here with one of my colleagues, Richard Wiltshire.
Hello.
Richard is responsible for a very large internship programme, the environmental internship programme, as part of our master's degrees in the Geography Department. So Richard, thank you for taking the time.
My pleasure.
Can you tell us a little bit about how the environmental internship programme works at King's?
We work with about 70 organisations a year. This year we're placing 70 students, so that fits rather well, except quite a few of our organisations offer more than one internship, so there is plenty of choice available for the students. And the opportunities that we have cover the full range of the programmes which students take with us. For example, we work with local authorities. This year we're working with organisations at the Centre, the Greater London Authority, with their Environment Committee. We're also working with sustainability officers in local London boroughs, like the London Borough of Lewisham. We work with a range of NGOs, some of them working on development issues in the Global South. Farm Africa is one example. The International Institute for Environment and Development is another. We work with NGOs working on disaster relief, which is good for our students on disasters, adaptation and development. Organisations like YCare International, Tier Fund also we're working with this year. Wildlife charities like the Royal Society for the Protection of Animals. And for students on our Tourism, Environment and Development degree, we work with tourism actors from tourism societies, a representative body, right through to ethical travel agents like Sumac Travel. So it's a very wide range.
It sounds like a very extensive programme. How do the students decide which organisation they'd like to do an internship with?
Well, they're given a choice of the organisations that are already on the books. They can also volunteer organisations if they wish, which we don't currently work with. If that happens, we check out the organisation, we contact them, we ask if they're willing to offer internships, and if they are, then the student who's proposed them gets first choice. When students have made their choice, we wait until we're about 3 weeks into the term before students actually make their choice. That gives overseas students in particular the opportunity to do the background research and catch up with domestic students in terms of the basic knowledge of what's on offer. Then with our more popular providers, we allocate rights to apply on a random basis so that students who've got an extensive background of work experience or worked overseas aren't advantaged everywhere. It's a level playing field for all of our students in terms of actually securing the opportunity to apply for an internship with any of our organisations.
So this is very much a tailor-made part of the degree that we run because of our contacts. But if a student had their own contacts, own interests, would they be able to approach an organisation themselves?
Yes, yes. We check them out to make sure that the organisation fits with the learning outcomes of the environmental internship, but provided that that works, then yes, and it does every year, and it's a very good way of producing new internship providers who then join the list for subsequent years.
You talked about the learning outcomes of the internship. Could you explain a little bit about how the internship fits into the degree assessment as a whole?
Yes, the assessment is based upon the organisation itself as an object of study. So you do an assessment of how effective that organisation is in the area in which it operates. Normally this would be in impacting on environmental policy, but we also adapt the assessment, so if they're primarily operating in the tourism field, it would be their impact on tourism policy. Or if it's in disaster, emergency preparedness, it would be their effectiveness in that particular field. The actual content of the internship is negotiated between the student and the internship provider. Sometimes they'll provide a template or a list of projects to which you sign up, but sometimes they'll take into account the skills and the background that the student brings and design a project actually around the student.
So this is almost like a kind of mini piece of research that they can undertake
It is indeed. I've got some examples here of what they did last year, just to give you a view of that. For example, for the London Borough of Lambeth, we had a student who did a very interesting scoping study for a local carbon offset fund. And carbon offset funds exist on a commercial basis at a global level, but this was a local authority initiative to establish its own fund. We had another working for the Greater London Assembly on the challenges and outcomes of the Mayor of London's water strategy. We had 2 students working with the British Red Cross to develop a GIS system for supporting food insecurity mapping and famine prevention. We had someone with Mandarin ability writing a report on China's investment aid in African agriculture for the International Institute for Environment and Development. We had another student do a report for the Environment Council, which looked at stakeholder engagement with environmental management in accountancy firms. So it's a very broad range of projects that students engage with our providers.
It sounds like a very impressive programme. I suppose being in London, it's absolutely crucial because we've got contacts with all these organisations here.
We do, and we're able to meet the demand amongst our students from a very large group of organisations primarily based in London, and which we refresh every year, bring in new organisations every year. People are always looking for our students.
So how long would a student be expected to work on their internship project?
We'd expect them to work for up to 120 hours normally, although there are cases where students go on and do their dissertation on the internship, based on the internship work. And under those circumstances, they may well carry on into the summer through basically a form of participant observation, through volunteering with the organisation.
Now, I suppose some of the skills that they learn and knowledge they acquire helps them find a job when they graduate from here. Is that been your experience?
That certainly helps. What also helps for all students is to have a prestigious organisation on their CV, particularly if the organisation is willing to give them a good reference. And most of the feedback we get from our providers is very, very positive, which is why they keep coming back to King's year after year. So that's good. And we also do have each year students go into employment with the internship providers. And in fact, a number of the people that I work with the organisations are former environmental interns, which is rather nice.
So this is all sounds a bit like a kind of win-win situation where the organisations get some very impressive students, and then in turn those students get to work with some very impressive organisations.
It is. It's not often in our work that we get to do things which are win-win, and which you can honestly say that you enjoy it so much you do it for nothing. But don't tell anyone that.
I think on that note we should call this to a halt. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.